Okay, why, Bob? We're talking about travel disasters today.
Yeah, yeah. Disaster movies are the best thing ever, and yeah, if you've traveled at all, you've got at least one travel disaster to your name. So we're going to talk about some of our travel disaster stories, and hopefully add a cautionary note for other folks when they're traveling.
Today on Dream Travel Share Unpacked.
If you'd like to receive an email version of today's show, along with our weekly travel opportunities, click on the link below to join our mailing list. We promise to only send you one email a week every Friday. You can unsubscribe at any time, and we won't share your email address with anyone else.
Okay, what's an example of one of your travel disasters?
Well, there are many, and not only just with us, but with many others. Travel disaster stories usually have something to do with airlines, and that's partially because of the airlines and how poorly they're managed. But this one was not an airline problem. This was our problem. We mixed up the flight time with the flight number. So it was, you know, how some of the airlines use 24-hour clocks.
Yeah.
So we were on, you know, flight 14 something and was leaving at 13 something. And so we got to the airport just in time to watch the plane take off.
Oh no. Oh no. Where were you going?
Well, it was we were leaving Las Vegas, which I know is a movie. Anyway, we were leaving Las Vegas and we were headed to Europe. So luckily from Las Vegas, we were going to have to connect anyway, and I don't remember what our original routing was. So I mean, the moral of the story is here, it actually kind of worked out. Like the airline took pity on us and just rebooked us on a different routing to get us to, I think we were going to Amsterdam, but you know, to where we were going. But it didn't have to go that way. I mean, they could have made us eat the ticket.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, which in which case is you do what you got to do. So
Yeah. Well, if you mess up like that, you want to hope for an airline representative that does take pity on you.
yeah, which is,
Okay.
you know, I mean, they have the people that work for the airlines, especially on the front line, have my undying respect and gratitude because travelers are being nasty to them all the time. And as we all know, their employers are not particularly swift either. So um, they have my undying respect and gratitude. And so when you find one that, you know, is willing to help when it was very clearly our mistake,
Yeah.
you know, they didn't have to do a thing for us. They could have said, okay, you go buy another ticket. And they didn't do that, which was very good of them.
Very good. Very good. Have you ever had one that really didn't work out?
I mean, everything works out in the end, right? Because you're still alive. But recently, we were leaving Rome and we were trying to get to Vancouver on the Pacific coast. And who knew? Vancouver is a big airport, but there's no direct flights to Rome. So we had to lay over in Calgary for like, I don't know, 2 hours or something. So that's fine. Plane came in on time, all good. So what we didn't know was this is a few months ago. So the G7 conference was happening, I don't know, in some little town outside of Calgary. I can't remember what it was. But anyway, so all the world leaders were there. So basically the airspace was severely restricted. And we
Yeah.
got there, we got there in time to realize that our plane wasn't going anywhere. So, so it was like, okay, you get to sleep in the airport overnight. Um, and then we realized very quickly that because of this big political thing going on, there was seriously like not one hotel room in Calgary. Um, anyway, that one kind of worked out too, but that had a potential to be a huge disaster. So, and again,
Oh,
there's nothing we could have. You know, this was not our mistake. This is just the way that things roll, and you sometimes end up with travel disaster stories. And again, most of them involve air travel.
air travel for sure. For sure. Okay. How do you mitigate any of these disasters?
Yeah, so I mean, one of the travel, we've never made this mistake, but we've certainly had clients make the mistake that they leave for the airport without their passport.
Mm.
And that's a fatal flaw because, you know, because they'll let you on, of course, a domestic flight. And then when you go to board for your international flight, if you don't have a passport, you ain't getting on the plane. There's no
Mm.
workaround on that one. Um, and more often, we've forgotten things like charging cables or you know, I've forgotten my global entry card. You only forget your global entry card once because when you stand in line for 4 or 5 hours and everybody else is getting through in a
Yeah.
matter of minutes, you know you really want that card.
Yeah.
So one of the things we've done to mitigate that, and you can remember we travel a lot. We do 3 international trips a year, and then there's some domestic stuff in there as well. So we have checklists. I figure, pilots that fly every single day, they actually have paper checklists. They still use these on airplanes, and I figure if it's good enough for a pilot, it's good enough for me. It's
Yeah.
yeah. So we have checklists, and Sue and I quiz each other on the way out the door. Can you put your hand on your passport? Not do you have your passport? Because everybody always thinks they have their passport, right?
Yeah.
So place your hand on your passport. Um, and again, charging cables. Charging cables is an easy problem to solve. It just takes money, but I got to tell you, how annoying is it when you get to wherever you're going and then you got to go find an Apple store and pay 125 bucks
Yeah.
for a power cord that's sitting on your desk at home.
So I was thinking about trip interruption insurance. Is that something that we should consider?
Yeah, people often overlook trip interruption insurance, and I understand why, because the big risk for you when you're traveling is travel medical and or trip cancellation. So trip interruption, which is usually bundled up in most travel insurance policies anyway, or you may have some minimal coverage on your credit card as well. But this is where it comes in really handy. So, for example, when I talk about that issue when we were in Calgary, I ended up having to take a hotel room that was over 500 bucks for the night because it was the last one in the whole city. And I claimed it on my trip interruption insurance and got it.
Oh,
Yeah, it
perfect.
was, yeah, so I got it refunded, which was pretty nice. Um, Frankly, I would have paid the 500 bucks anyway because I'm not sleeping in an airport on sitting up in an air because it was going to be 12 or 13 hours and, there's no chance. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's awful nice to have trip interruption insurance for when these things go horribly sideways. We ended up in Munich on a similar thing. It was an airline problem, and so the airline handed us a voucher for a hotel that night because it was there. They failed to get us there on time to make the connection. And we went to this hotel. It was gold. So here Sue and I are in our mid 50s at the time, and it was basically a youth hostel. So we
Oh.
had a private room, but we were clearly the only, we walked in the lobby and the whole place ground to a halt saying, okay, who brought their grandparents? And
Hmm.
uh, you know, having to do that again, I wouldn't have taken the airlines hotel. I would have booked into the in-terminal Hilton at the Munich airport and claimed it on my trip insurance. So
Yeah.
uh,
I
yeah, trip
actually
inter
have some.
yeah,
I
sorry, go ahead.
I I have something similar. It was just a year and a half ago. So we flew into Amsterdam. We had to get a connection. There was no connection. Flight got canceled. They gave us a hotel voucher with a food voucher. The hotel, they had to bus the entire everybody that was on this flight
Yeah,
to this hotel, which was about 25 minutes away. It was horrible. The food they gave us were like frozen meatballs and celery sticks, and that's what you had. And it was so I learned my lesson there. Thanks, airport, or thank you, airline. I'll
yeah,
take my own hotel and I'll put it through on my trip interruption insurance.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
underscoring all of this is if you've got the opportunities to pay 50 bucks more for a direct flight, pay the 50 bucks because connections are often a problem.
Yeah.
And and if you have a direct flight, then you take this off the table. So I would pay more for a more direct routing to avoid some of these problems. That's another mitigation strategy.
What other things can we prevent from trying to have these disasters happen?
Yeah, one more that comes to mind is be aware of local holidays. So, not everybody observes the same holidays. Well, actually, nobody observes the same holidays we do over here. So, the number of times I've arrived on the ground somewhere and found out that it's a local holiday, which, okay, so sometimes that's not a big problem, but I can tell you I was in Italy one time and there was a local holiday the next day, and I was planning on taking the train from some little remote town into Rome the next day to catch a plane, and the trains weren't running.
Uh,
So,
yeah.
so we
Yeah.
very quickly had to pay an extortionate amount to have somebody drive us into Rome, in order to catch our flight. So that's something I should have caught ahead of time. So when are the local holidays? So just be aware of when you're going. With the Google machine now, you can just punch it in and say, okay, are there with AI, right? Is there going to be any potential disruptions from my trip to Italy and this date to this date?
What are we talking about next week?
Yeah, next week we're going to Morocco.
Oh, exciting. That's on my bucket list. I look forward to that on Dream, Travel, Share, Unpacked.
We'll see you then.
Bye for now.
If you enjoyed this video blog, it really helps us when you like, or better yet, subscribe to our channel so that we know the best content to produce for you. If you want to book a cruise or packaged land vacation, then we'd love to help you out. We know the products and destinations very well, and we can always get you something not available on direct bookings. Our coordinates are in the notes below. Also, if you haven't signed up for our newsletter yet, you get 1 email a week every Friday with some commentary and some different deals that we're seeing in the marketplace. We don't share your information with anyone else, and if you decide it's not for you, then we're sorry to see you go, but there's an unsubscribe button at the bottom of every email. See you next time.